So today, we're really diving deep into a fascinating life, talking about Dougie Joyce. This is a guy who's gone from, well, you could say bare-knuckle boxing rings to boardrooms.
Yeah, he's moved on from the rougher side of Manchester to launching a whiskey brand.
It really is a fascinating change. You
Hmm.
don't see a tough guy turned entrepreneur every day, and we're going to unpack it all.
Yeah, and the source we're working with here is Dougie's interview on the Criminal Connection podcast, and he does not hold back. You really get a feel for, like, the real person in this one.
Totally. He's really open about his past, even his time in prison. It gives us a lot to unpack about Dougie himself. Yeah, for sure. Dougie's story, it starts with a childhood that, well, he moved around a lot. He talks about growing up as a traveler, which, for those who don't know, that's what they call Irish traveler communities over in the UK, lived in caravans, then in council estates around Manchester.
Right, and I think that's super important, that background. It speaks to his toughness.
Yeah,
Those weren't easy situations to grow up in.
yeah. And he talks about fighting, like, constantly. It was just, like, part of life. He even mentions being, like, pushed into bare-knuckle boxing as a kid, getting hit with a broomstick if he even hesitated.
I mean, that's rough. And you can see how it leads to that no-fear attitude he's known for.
Totally.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, Dougie. He wasn't just, like, a brawler. He was actually talented, trained as an amateur boxer, even sparred with pros, and from what we hear, was about to go pro himself.
Yeah, that's a real turning point. You see a different path he could have taken.
Totally. But instead, he says family problems is what pulled him back. Doesn't get into details in the interview, but, you get this feeling that family's everything to Dougie.
Yeah, that loyalty is a huge theme for him. For better or worse, it seems like.
Yeah. And that loyalty, or maybe stuff surrounding it, landed him in prison. Multiple times, actually. Something like 8 different prisons. He talks about Forest Bank in Manchester like it's a job he worked at or
As
something.
you should think, right? About how prison affects people. If that kind of familiarity is, like, normal, that's a bit unsettling.
It is. But even in those situations, Dougie finds funny stuff. Like, he tells this story about being locked up with John Fury, Tyson Fury's dad. Apparently, John gave everyone nicknames. And the way Dougie tells it, the name he gave one inmate is just hilarious.
It's interesting, right? Finding humor in a place like that shows you something about Dougie, that's for sure.
And it's not like just jokes with Dougie.
Right.
He tells this other story about a poker game in prison, high stakes, and, well, it goes wrong.
As things tend to do in prison, yeah.
Exactly. Gets out of hand, arguments, and Dougie, well, he flips the table.
Sounds about right. Always had that temper.
Yeah, something like that. And, of course, it escalates. Ends with Dougie giving someone a pretty bad beating.
See, that's what I mean about that line he walks. Self-defense, sure, but also any disrespect, and he's ready to explode.
It's a good point. And it comes up again with this story about a guard, right?
Yeah.
This guard was known for being a real piece of work, pushing inmates too far.
And Dougie didn't back down, I'm guessing.
Nope. Violence again. You ever get the feeling with prison, it's like, it just makes things worse sometimes.
Absolutely. It's supposed to be rehab, but often you come out more ready to use your fists than ever.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, we got to talk about Dougie's family, because that's huge for him. Specifically, the Joyce family and, well, the GU gang in Manchester.
Ah, right. And his cousin, Colin David Joyce, he was major in that whole thing, ended up doing serious time.
Yeah. And for those who don't know GU, they were bad news. Drugs, guns, turf wars, the whole 9 yards. They were a big reason Manchester got called Gunchester back then.
It's scary how much power gangs can get. Affects the whole place.
For sure. And while Dougie's, open about his family, he's also trying to build something different for his own kids. He and his wife, Holly, they've got 3 daughters, another one on the way.
It's that classic struggle, right? The old life versus a new start, especially for your kids.
Yeah. And it's kind of like Manchester itself. Dougie talks about how it's changed, left gun violence since the Gunchester days. He figures it's the tougher policing, harsher sentences.
Yeah, but it's never that simple, is it? Like, have they really fixed the problems or just hidden them better?
Makes you think.
Definitely. And it's in this whole changing world, both for him and Manchester, that Dougie's trying to go legit, business-wise.
And I'm not talking small-time stuff.
Yeah.
This guy's diving in head first.
No kidding. Tell me more about this fight club of his.
So he's got this 3D fight club, right? It's a wild mix. Bare-knuckle boxing, MMA, the whole shebang. Like a, well, controlled way to settle scores, let's say.
Interesting. It's like he's channeling his past, but legally. Right.
Exactly. And then, get this, he's making whiskey. Joyce's Irish whiskey.
Hold on, seriously. Like, proper whiskey.
Oh, yeah. Premium stuff, double cast, even made in the same place as Conor McGregor's brand.
That's a bold move. He's going for it, huh?
No kidding. And just to top it off, he's even got a piece of a hangover cure company. Reset, they call it.
This guy's like a mini empire builder. You gotta admire the hustle.
Right, but here's the thing. You can't outrun your past, you know?
Yeah, some things have a way of catching up no matter how fast you run.
Exactly. And Dougie mentions this, Douglas, the guy he's got history with. Turns out he's related to that guy from the poker game gone wrong.
Figures. So, trouble's still lurking around.
Seems like it. And to make things even more interesting, he tells this crazy story about a car chase.
A car chase? What happened?
So he's out one night, right? And someone takes a shot at him.
No way. Is he okay?
He's fine. But the crazy part is, he's more worried about his dad finding out about the speeding ticket he got while, dodging bullets.
This guy. It's like danger is just part of his daily routine.
It's wild, right? Makes you wonder if he can ever really escape that life.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Can you ever truly leave it all behind?
It's what makes his story so fascinating. He talks about wanting a normal life, family, business, peace, and quiet.
I mean, who wouldn't want that after everything he's been through?
Right. But you also sense that he misses the old days, even just a little. The adrenaline, the respect, that whole world.
It's the pull of the familiar, even when it's dangerous. It's a part of him,
It is. It's like he's pulled in two directions.
Mhm.
Wants to change, but the past is right there with him.
That's what makes this whole thing so compelling. It's not just Dougie's story. It's about all of us trying to figure out who we are, where we belong.
That's deep, man.
But it's true. And Dougie's story, it makes you think about second chances, about how society treats people who've made mistakes. It's bigger than just one guy,
Yeah, I feel that.
And you know what? We've only scratched the surface. Dougie's journey, it's got even more twists and turns.
Oh, really? Like what? So, where do we even go from there? It's like Dougie's stuck, Wants to be done with the old life, but it's still there, pulling him back in.
It's that shadow, right? Like no matter how far you run, some things just stick with you.
Totally. He's building this whole new life, but you can tell a part of him, it misses the excitement, the danger,
It's familiar. Even if it's dangerous, that familiarity's hard to shake. Plus, let's be real, guys like Dougie, there's a certain, appeal to that life. It's exciting from the outside.
Yeah, the whole bad boy thing. Even if he doesn't want that image anymore, it's still there.
Exactly. It's what makes this whole thing so interesting. You got danger, you got ambition, it's all mixed up.
And for us listening, even if we're not like ex-boxers or whatever, it's relatable. Trying to be better, but the past is right there.
It's about all of us, really. Who we are, who we're trying to be, and Dougie, he just lays it all out there.
No kidding. Plus, you got to think about the whole Manchester thing. It's like they're both trying to change, him and the city.
Oh, that's a good point. Like, can a place outrun its past any easier than a person can?
Right. Dougie seems to think so, but he also knows it's not easy. Like he's tied to that old life somehow.
And that's the big question, isn't it? Who we are versus who we want to be, what we tell ourselves, what other people say we are. It's a lot.
It is. And to make things even more interesting, he says this thing at the end of the interview. It really stuck with me. He's like, it's like a tattoo on the back of me, pulling me straight back in.
Damn. That was like poetic or something. Stays with you,
No kidding. So what's the answer then? Dougie Joyce, is he going to end up back where he started?
That's the million-dollar question, and unfortunately, we don't have the answer. But look, his story, it makes you think, right? About second chances, about judging people, about how hard it is to really change.
It does. Dougie might not have all the answers, but he's definitely got us asking the questions.
Exactly. And that's sometimes all it takes, right? To get people thinking, to spark a conversation.
Well said. Well, on that note, I think we've done about all the diving we can do for one day.
I agree. Dougie Joyce, man, what a story.
To everyone listening, keep those questions coming, and we'll keep bringing you the deep dives you won't find anywhere else. Until next time.